Good morning and welcome to our English lesson today. It is a continuation of the Monday's lesson. Use of antonyms or opposites of words, and our major concern is of use of prefixes to form antonyms or opposites of words, because you realize that most learners can come up with opposites of words, but when it comes to using prefixes and coming up with using prefixes to come up with the opposite of the words, most of us tend to mess up. So in the last week we talked about some words that do not take prefixes to form their what? Their opposite. For example, you can say someone is foolish, and if the person is not foolish, we say the person is what? We say the person is what? A person is wise. You can say she forgets everything, you forget. If you don't forget, you remember. So you have foolish, wise, and if you don't forget, you do what? You remember. It is a huge building. If it is not huge, then we say it is tiny. It is a huge building, or it is a huge tree. If it is not huge, it is what? It is tiny. You hate. If you don't hate, then what do? You laugh. Just remember to spread love. If you don't hate, then you laugh. If you don't have joy, for example, if it is not joy, it is grief. Or instead of grief, we can say what? We can say sorrow. That brings me to what I insisted in the previous lesson. You find that sometimes they give you a word, and instead of giving you the direct opposite, they give you the synonym of the opposite, the synonym of the what? The synonym of the opposite I gave an example of being safe. For example, if someone says it is safe, and then we know the opposite of safe is what? It is dangerous. But you know dangerous means the same way as risky. So that means that you should all know the synonyms, words that mean the same. And then you have same, you have safe. And if your answers do not have dangerous, then you should go in for what? For risky. If something is not expensive, if it is not expensive, then that thing is what? Cheap. But you might find that in the exam they give you cheap, and then they say give the opposite of the underlined word. Example, that watch is cheap. The watch is cheap. The watch is cheap. And most learners know that the opposite of the word cheap is expensive. But when you go to your answers, there is no expensive, because expensive has another synonym. Expensive has a synonym. The synonym of expensive is what? Is dear. Which means dear can be also the opposite of the word cheap, can also be the opposite of the word cheap. They can give you the synonym of the antony, the synonym of the antonym, so that you come up with the opposite. Now, using prefixes to come up with opposites of words, we talked about use of an, use of this, and use of ir as what? Prefixes. What is a prefix? This is a group of words that are put before a word, and once these words are put before the word, they change its meaning. Especially if they come up with the opposite. Especially if you want to come up with the opposite. A group of words that when placed before a word, they change the meaning of that word. So you have number one, unlucky. I say we talked of an, and then examples of these words. We say she's lucky. She's lucky, she's alive. Everybody should thank God that they are lucky, they are alive. So if the underlined word is lucky and they want you to give the opposite, you are going to say unlucky. It is fair. It is fair that she was taken out of. It is fair that he was taken out of the Senate. If it is not fair, then it is unfair. So I've used an, and then I've put them before these words. And once I put them before the words, the meaning of the words change. And then we have this as a prefix that is used with us to come up with the opposite. Example, honest. If you are not honest, we say you are dishonest. If you are not honest, we say you are what? Dishonest. You like something. If you don't like something, you dislike something. You like something, and if you don't like that thing, then we say you dislike. Ir, it is regular, and then if you want the opposite of the word regular, you are going to say irregular. responsible. If you are not responsible, we are going to say you are irresponsible. And how can you tell a learner is responsible? By looking at the kind of work they do. So I say it is irregular. If something is not regular, then it is irregular. You have responsible. If something is not responsible, if someone is not responsible, then that person is irresponsible. And then it is you are relevant. If you are not relevant, we say you are irrelevant. We say you are irrelevant. You are relevant, and if you are not relevant, we say you are what? Irrelevant. So you have irregular, irresponsible, irrelevant. I've added ir, which is what? Which is a prefix, a group of words that are put before a word to change its meaning. So in our lesson today, still opposites using prefixes, simply a continuation of the Monday's lesson. It is going to be a short lesson. We have use of ill, use of what? Ill. So use of ill as a prefix to come up with the opposite of what? Opposite of words. And I've tried to come up with some examples of words that take ill. Some examples of words that take what? That take ill to come up with the opposite. Example, we say legible. What is, if somebody says it is legible? Legible means what? It can easily be seen, it can easily be seen. Or big enough to be seen, big enough to be seen. So you find that sometimes when you write your compositions, the teacher remarks, write legibly. Write legibly. What does that mean? Big enough that whatever you are writing can be seen, So if you don't write legibly, or if the writing is not legible, then it is illegible. Then illegible, how are we writing illegible? By simply using what? Prefix what? Prefix ill to come up with the opposite, So if it is not legible, it is illegible. And then legitimate. So we have legitimate. If it is not legitimate, then it is what? Illegitimate. What? No, if something is legitimate, like it is allowed. If it is not allowed, then it is illegitimate. Like it is legitimate for all parents to do what? For all parents to discipline their children. But it is illegitimate for teachers to use canes to beat pupils in school. So we say it is legitimate, and if something is not legitimate, then we say it is illegitimate. Not allowed. Something is legal. If something is legal, it is allowed by the law of a country. And if something is not allowed by the law of a country, then it is illegal. You can find this in your science lesson where you say have legal drugs in Kenya, and then we have illegal drugs in Kenya. When we say legal, it means it is whatever that thing is, it is allowed by the law of a country. But if something is not legal, then it is illegal, meaning it's not allowed by the law of a country. It's not allowed by the law of what? It's not allowed by a law of a country. Now, use of im as a prefix to come up with the opposite. We have moral. If you are not moral, we say you are immoral, bad manners. If something is not possible, we say it is impossible. Is it possible to travel from here to America? And then somebody is going to say it is impossible. And then you say polite. If someone is not polite, that person is impolite. Now, we've added prefix im or im. We've added prefix im. A group of words that when put before a word, they change the meaning, and in this sentence they are giving us the opposite. It is moral. If something is not moral, that thing is immoral. If it is not possible, it is impossible. Like cannot happen or cannot take place. If you are not polite, we say you are impolite. And politeness does not cost a thing. It is good that people are polite. People be polite. So if you are not polite, we say you are impolite. Now we have use of I am, and we've come up with moral, immoral, possible, impossible, polite, and then impolite. I'm just trying to give out the examples of some words that are going to take prefix im or I am to come up with their opposites. Moral, if something is not moral, it is immoral. Possible, if something is not possible, it is impossible. You are polite. If you are not polite, we say you are impolite. Now, use of prefix in to come up with what? Come up with opposites of what? To come up with opposites of words. It is decent. If something is not decent, it is indecent. People should dress. The actress was dressed decently, like in a good, well-fitting dress. If you are not dressed in a decent dress, then we say you dressed indecently. We say you dressed indecently. Then you have secure. She's secure with her job. If you are not secure, then we say you are insecure. Insecure. Opposite, secure, insecure. I've added prefix "in" to show that whatever you are doing, you are not sure about it, you are not sure about it. Your answer is correct. If your answer is not correct, your answer is incorrect. Incorrect. So that is a correct answer. If you don't give a correct answer, the test is going to say that is incorrect. But anyway, a good try. So if something is not correct, then it is incorrect, then it is incorrect. Something is tolerable. If it is not tolerable, it is intolerable. Like you can tolerate. What is the phrasal verb of tolerate? To put up with? To put up with. It means you can put up with whatever that thing is. But if you can't put up with it, we say it is intolerable. You can't stand it. We say tolerable. So if you are not something, you can't tolerate something, or if you can't put up with that thing, then we say it is intolerable. Like sitting in a place with a lot of noise is intolerable. And then we have fertile. If something is not fertile, we say it is infertile. So you can say the fertile land along the river. The maize was planted in the fertile land along the river. If that land is not fertile, then we say it is what? If the land is not fertile, then we say it is what? We say it is infertile. Now, we can also use none as a prefix. So we can also use none as a prefix to come up with opposites of what? To come up with opposites of what? So we have none. You can also use none to come up with the opposite of our. To come up with the opposite of our word. For example, you can have government. Example of words, you can say government. You can have government. You can have you can have essential. Now, if I want to come up with the opposite of government, I'm going to say, let's say governmental, not government, say governmental. If something does not belong to the government, then it is what? Then it is government, then it is non-governmental. You can say payment, you can say payment, and then you can come up with the opposite, governmental. It is a government school or it is governmental. If something it isn't, then we say it is non-governmental. Non-governmental. You realize that I have a hyphen between the words non and governmental. Then you have essential. If something is not essential, it is non. It is non-essential. You realize that I have non-governmental, I have non-essential, and between the words I have what? Between the words I have a hyphen. You can have payment. If it's not payment, we say non-payment. We say non-payment. We say what? Non-payment. So we can also use none as a prefix to come up with the opposite of what? To come up with opposite of a word. For example, governmental, and then I have essential. Essential means what? It is important that it is there. It is important that is what? It is there. And then you can have sense. If something does not make sense, it is what? It is nonsense. If something does not make sense, then it is what? That is nonsense. Just remember, you can write nonsense without a hyphen. You can write nonsense without a hyphen. So sometimes we can form opposites of words by using prefix none. Another thing I want to put across is that those words that end with a full, for example, words ending with a full, words ending with full. Words ending with full form their opposite by having less as the opposite. For example, I'm hopeful that Corona will end. It is hopeless. It is what? Yes? It is hopeless. You are either hopeful, and if you are not hopeful, then we say you are hopeless. If something is not hopeful, then we say the thing is hopeless. Those words that end with a full are going to form their opposite by having what? By using adding less. Now, this is a prefix. Then you add less as a suffix, which means you are putting it after our a group of words that put after our a word. Are you getting that? And then you can have painful. If something is not painful, it is what? It is painless. It is painless. Hopeful, hopeless. If something is not painful, it is what? Painless. Then you are powerful. If you are not powerful, we say you are powerless. If you are powerless. You are useful. If you are not useful, we say you are useless. You are useless. You are cheerful. If you are not cheerful, you are cheerless. You are cheerless. You are careful. If you aren't careful, you are careless. You are careless. So sometimes we can form the opposite of words, especially those words that end with an FUL, by adding suffix ls to the word. And I've given out examples. You can say someone, you are hopeful. If you're not hopeful, we say you are hopeless. It is painful. If it isn't painful, it is painless. You are either cheerful or you are cheerless. You are either careful or you are careless. You are careless. You are shameful or you are shameless. You are shameless. You are restful or you are restless. You are thoughtful or you are thoughtfulness. Either you are thankful or you are thankless. So you can form the opposite of words, especially those with ending in an FL, by adding a suffix or ls to the main word. I'm going to make sure that when you listen to the lesson, you make some notes, and then you can attempt some questions that are posted in the group. Or you can go and check out Mira. You can check Mira page 96, page 95, 96. You check out Mira page 95, page 96, and then you attempt the questions without looking behind for the answers. And you can also check Menda Primary English, and then you can come Menda Primary English, and then you attempt on page 116. You attempt exercise 7.4. Have a good day.